Thank you for meeting with me.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me.
So everybody's pretty much just been giving a background of what happened with, say, their case, their situation, um, what they're doing after, how they got through it, and how are they moving forward.
So I just turned 30 in April. I just got my record sealed 2 weeks ago after being a cannabis felon for 13 years since I was prosecuted as an adult at 17. And yeah, it's been a long journey, 13 years. I guess let's jump back to when it happened. I was a kid in high school, and just like many other people in high school, you try pot, or sometimes you smoke pot once in a while, and you and your friends pick up pot once in a while together. So it basically came down to the situation where me and a group of my friends, like 4 or 5 close buddies, we would all like throw down money and pick up a bag, and one of us would go get it, and it would always change which person went and got it. We went to pick up, I went to go pick up bud, but before the charge happened and I got arrested and charged and all that stuff, I had met up with this kid from our high school, and I'm not going to give out his name because I don't know if legally I can or not, but he ended up being a confidential informant, but I didn't know this at the time. And this kid was a kid at our high school that was kind of like, I mean, I wasn't super popular by any throw of the imagination, but this kid was kind of like a gothic outcast, kind of, super heavyweight guy. A lot of people made fun of him and stuff like that. So I kind of felt bad for the guy, even though I didn't hang out with him. But I remember he asked us once, like, hey, can I get like a dime or something? Like, I know you guys pick up. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like, I'll get it for you. Like, blah, 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 blah. So I would help him out with like small amounts here or then for like a 2 or 3 month period. And this was like him added to like 3 or 4 of my buddies that were also picking up bags, and we'd all rotate which person went to go get it. And after 3 months or so, I went to go pick up a bag, and it was something like 2.5 ounces, something like that. And I'm going back to this guy's house, and I'm actually with another buddy of mine. I'm not gonna give his last name, but his first name is Dorian, and he just happens to be with me. He's not involved at all. I'm just hanging out with him. I literally just picked him up like on my journey because we're gonna hang out later. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to spook the guy. I'm gonna drop you off. So I like drop him off like a few blocks away from where this kid's house is.
Yeah.
And I'm calling this kid. I'm talking to the kid on the phone back in 2007 on a Razor or whatever, the flip cell phones back then. And he lives in this like single family condominium section that a lot of small towns in Illinois have for like single moms that don't make a lot of money. It's like a single, you know what I'm talking about, like a kind of like an apartment complex, but it's for like lower income single women. And I remember I'd always pull in there to meet him, and he lived at like the very end, and then it kind of like the parking lot did like a big circle and it came out on the other end. It was another parking lot, then it left. So it was kind of like a big U. And I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about to be there. Like, just stay on the phone with me. He's like, yeah, I'm in my front yard, blah, blah, blah. And I pull into the left, and I can like see his like little condominium house at the very end. He's like, yeah, I'm just standing outside. I'm like, yeah, I'm driving up. I'm parking in front. I don't see you. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm right here. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not here. There's nobody here.
Yeah.
And then he still tries talking to me, and I'm like parked, and I look to the left, and there's this like Buick parked, I don't know, 6 or 10 spaces down to the left, and I don't think anything of it. And then I look to my left again, and I see these 2 cars pull in, and they're kind of unmarked, and then police cars pull in, and it's like 3 or 4 police cars come in. And then I look to my right, and I'm parked at kind of like the end of a U, like it goes around 2 apartment buildings. It's like a big U. And I'm at the very end of like the end of the U where you'd come back. And behind that U is a field and a church. And through that church and the field, a big, I don't know like if it was a SWAT vehicle, but it looked like a SWAT vehicle comes through the field full with people with riot gear, and they block my car off from the right. And I've got these cops from the left and a cop from behind me. These people with suits on, with guns and stuff, yell at me, get out of your car, like get to your knees, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like getting out of my car and like opening the door and like getting out, and I'm not going quick enough for the cops. So he just like grabs me by the back of my shirt, kind of throws me down. And I kind of bump against the car next to me because one of the cop cars had pulled next to me too. And they arrest me. They're like, blah, 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 blah. We got you. Kind of talking smack to me. And they're like, you know, where's the bud at? Where's the bud at? And I had hidden the bud at that point because I've done it so many times. I hidden the bud. And they're like, you know, we're going to get it either way. We're going to bring you to jail. So they brought me to jail. I'm 17 years old. This is like November, I want to say, of 2007. I think that's correct. And I get brought to jail. And I go and I sit down. And they're like, they do the one charge. And they're like, they make me feel like that's it. And they're like, yeah. They're like, oh, by the way, here's another, I can't remember, 3 or 7 felony charges. Can't remember because it was so long time ago. Here's another 3 or 7. I think it was 3. Could have been 7. Honestly, I've been through court so many times I can't remember. I'd have to look at my records. I can send them to you later if you want. But he's like, yeah, here's another so many felonies. We've been tailing you, listening to your phone calls, and watched you do like 4 to 7 deals, something like that. So here's another charge. Here's the next charge. Here's the next charge. Here's the next charge. It's like looking at like $30,000, blah, 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 10% bail. That's something like that. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm sitting in the jail sweating for like 2 days at 17 years old. And I can't get a hold of anyone in the jail because everybody had cell phones back then. But then I ended up getting a hold of my great Aunt Harriet in the phone book, which is super weird. And she called my grandma. My grandma called my parents, but my parents that morning were waking up and they turned on their TV, and I was on the TV. It's a local student, Lucas Lloyd, charged with class 3 cannabis felony, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh shit. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I went to court and like, that was just what happened. The court process sucked. I spent something like $30,000, basically my whole college tuition and money, stuff like that. Sold a bunch of stuff to have a lawyer. And I fought, I think it was 8 charges, but it might have been 4 or 5. And I got it down to 1. And it was basically, they would drop all the lesser charges if I pled to the biggest charge, which was the one that they caught me with, the 2.5 ounces. And by the way, when I was sweating in jail and they couldn't find it, they found it in like my vent of my like thing or whatever. He's like, fucking got you, buddy. He's like, you're going fucking down. He's like, guess what? He's like, guess what, bud? I remember the detective's last name, Damon, and the other detective's last name is Barry. And dude looking at me cruel as fuck. And you know he's done this to so many people in this small, corrupt town, Boone County, Illinois. And he's like, yeah, you know what? We're going to make an example out of you. We're not going to charge you in the, what's it called, minor court or whatever. He's like, we're going to make sure that the judge charges you as an adult. We're going to make an example out of you. And I'm like, oh shit. So I hire this lawyer. I go to court for like 7 months. I end up pleading my case to the biggest charge after my 18th birthday. So they charged me at 17 as an adult. I pleaded out after 18, but I'm still considered a felon from something that happened when I was 17. So that really, really sucked. I was upset about it. I got something like, I don't remember how much jail time I got. I remember I went to jail for like a month and a half, something like that originally, or like 15 days. And then I got bailed out, and then I was sent to like probation or something like that. And I would just fail my probation for like 4 or 5 years and kept getting thrown in local jail for like smoking pot, basically. I was like, fuck this. This is bullshit. Like, I want to do this. And that's just like the small side of my story. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that like ties into it. One, I'm a white guy talking to you about cannabis equity. I kind of feel disingenuous or like not worthy because I'm like the outlier. So many people like me that are white, you know what I mean, scrawny and stuff, they don't get charged like this. It's disproportionately people of color. I mean, I think you're probably already aware the numbers, like 3.73 times as likely nationally. And in my state, it was like 7.6 times more likely if you're a person of color to get charged with a cannabis crime, despite equal usage rate. So it's just kind of nuts. So I feel guilty sort of on one aspect, but then here's the other side that I tell people too. A lot of people don't realize this with the cannabis convictions. I have PTSD documented like in my medical records that states that I have PTSD because of cannabis prohibition, because I was incarcerated at such a young age, because of all this crap that happened to me. So I actually went to doctors for the past 13 years, like the best ones you can think of, and got tested for everything. And they basically had no idea what was wrong with me. They're like, well, we think you have a stress-related anxiety disorder. That's the best way to put it. We don't know. It's like you could have an individualistic like disorder. And then like 2 or 3 years ago, I ended up like talking to my doctor again, like after all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, it's totally PTSD. He's like, you have PTSD from what happened to you. And he's like, the best thing you can do is, even if you're not around people, like say your story out loud once a day to yourself to kind of be like cathartic and like get it out. And any opportunity you do have, speak about your story. So it sucks because I do have PTSD. It's something I struggle with. Anxiety sucks. I'm trying to get back to like a place of normal. But I feel like a lot of people don't realize that like cannabis prohibition, I'm a white guy saying this. So imagine like the people that had it way worse than me. Not to mention if I was a person of color and I didn't have the money I had for my lawyer and stuff right now, I'd have it way worse. I would have done years and years and years in prison. And I don't know, honestly, if somebody of my mental state could have survived, you know? So that's, I don't know. So even though I went to only county jails and stuff like that, for me to get a pardon, I have to go to the Prison Review Board of Illinois. And I have to set up a court date in, I think, Springfield, Illinois. And I have to sit in front of the 3 or 5 Prison Review Board people of the state. And I have to plead my case. And just to be able to plead my case, like there's a whole other process just to be able to do it. Like I have to get any arrest or any time I've been pulled over in any state, my records completely compiled together. I have to write why each thing happens. I have to write down how I've changed my life or what I've done to change my life, like my accomplishments, like school, stuff like that. And then you go to the court basically, and they look at this documentation, and then you have 15 minutes to sit or stand in front of this panel of 3 to 5 prison review board people from the state. And you plead your case and why you deserve a pardon and why not getting a pardon would be not beneficial towards your life. And you list those reasons. You can also bring up to 2 witnesses with you, and you can have letters written for you too, and they can speak on your behalf in that 15-minute period. You get to apply, you're eligible to apply every 6 months, then you have to wait, and then it's another 6 months before it happens again, and you're eligible, or it's 3 months, something like that. So I basically have like 4 to 5 tries before the next election. The problem is the legal aid group I was using, thank God for them. If I had to pay for a lawyer group or a legal aid, like a lawyer to do that paperwork just to get my record sealed, it would have cost thousands of dollars, which I don't have. Like I'm not rich by any throw of the imagination. So they're not doing pardoning stuff at the moment due to the coronavirus and due to them trying to help a lot of people get their records sealed. But you know, I was expecting when I went to go get my record sealed, they could have denied it and I could have had to go back again for a second decision. Then he could have denied that. And then I could have went to the appeals court and I would have automatically gotten in the appeals court because I've done everything required by law.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't make me go through that hurdles kind of makes me feel a little, I don't know, hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, even if they would have said no, I went in there like, it doesn't matter if they say no, I'm just going to keep going until it happens, you know?
Yeah, which is all you can do. But
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
like, the first time it was good.
I mean, not to keep talking your ear off, but if you ever want to talk about felony disenfranchisement for people with cannabis felonies, it is bad. There's only 7 states in the entire country that allow people with cannabis felonies to work in their medical cannabis or recreational industry. It's pretty backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of these people that get locked up, literally like the pioneers that like pioneered how you cultivate cannabis, like the medical stuff, the stuff people want, like they have records, like it's just nuts. People that have like, children have died and like they've gone to prison for making medicine for them. Like a lot of these people like have records and they can't even work in the illegal industry. So that's a huge thing that pisses me off. I could rant for hours about that. Like that's another reason I wanted to get my record sealed, is because now I can legally work in the cannabis industry in Illinois. I've been a cannabis advocate for like 13 years since this all happened to me. So here's the thing that sucks. I've seen a lot more people working as like dispensary bud tenders that are people of color, but I never see people of color at all at all in any sort of leadership industry. And I go to pretty much, I don't know, a good half of the state's dispensaries at least once a month.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking to me. Have a great
Yeah, Black Lives Matter, for real
yeah.
though.